Welcome to the Fire Away Podcast. Podcast is the Fire Away Podcast. Oh yeah, here we go. Let's do it.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Fire Away. What's going on, Fred?
Not too much, Mark.
Hey, it's the episode where we fire away at anything and everything. I
Ye-
figured I'd say the tagline.
Yeah,
this time.
I forgot to let you say it this time. Usually
Yeah.
I'll say it.
Yeah,
Gotta
so,
change it up sometime.
Yeah, welcome back. Again, follow us on Instagram, Fire_Way Podcast, and follow us on Apple Podcasts. So it's just me and you today.
Yep.
Talking a little bit about, you said you had a story you want to talk about, so I guess I can kind of get you started, segue you right into it. So you have an interesting story about a place you used to work. And it has to do with the Oklahoma City bombing,
Correct.
which was April 19th, 1995.
Correct.
Timothy McVeigh, Terry Nichols, on the second year anniversary of the Waco
Right.
disaster, decided to blow up a federal building in Oklahoma City.
The Alpha P. Murrah building.
Yes. And then until it was the deadliest terrorist attack in American history until 9/11.
Right.
So you worked for a company. I'll let you kind of take over here that did some interest, and it kind of is what got us onto that story.
Yeah, so I worked for a company called Controlled Demolition, CDI. They're based out of Phoenix, Maryland. I started working there. I was probably 19 years old, and the way it worked was I worked around. So it was they had like a complex, so to speak. That was the father, the two brothers. Their name was the Loazos. They I got hired to kind of work around their area. I'd mow their grass, I'd take out their trash, I would work in the yard, I would do all kinds of stuff. And then when we had a job to do, I was a laborer. So I did everywhere from drilling holes in the concrete. We would fill them with dynamite. We would wrap chain link fence. We would do all kinds of stuff. So basically, when you went into a building, you identified where the points were going to be that you were going to blow up.
So
Okay?
like load-bearing walls.
Load-bearing walls and all that. So let's just say, and for argument's sake, you got a 6-story building, and you want to bring that 6-story building down. You're going to blow the first and second floor and maybe the fourth floor. And when you blew those floors, so what they would do is they would come in, they would take out all the exterior walls on that floor, completely take the exterior wall out, take out everything on the inside, right? If there was an elevator shaft, they would weaken the elevator shaft, and it's just on the floor. And then they'd go through strategically, and you would drill holes in the column with a steel bit, 90-pound rock hammer drills right there. They will work you. Drill holes in these columns. You would shove dynamite in them. How you would bring the building down. So in order to do that, though, obviously you have dynamite in concrete, so you can throw concrete everywhere. So what you would do is you would take these columns and you would wrap them in chain link fence, and then you would wrap them with a material like it's called a Travera or something like that. It's called, I can't remember the exact name of it. It's a real thick black fabric that you would wrap, and you cut holes in it in the chain link fence, and then you'd shove the dynamite in there. So what would happen is when you blew that column, it kept the concrete from flying everywhere. So not only did you have to wrap every column that you shoved dynamite into, you actually had to wrap, now because you took the exterior walls out, you had to wrap the entire exterior wall in chain link fence and that same fabric material. So needless to say, as a 19-year-old laborer, my job was to cut fence, cut fabric, wrap, labor, clean it out, you name it.
I was just thinking about this. The labor on that alone on a 6-story building.
It's a lot.
Larger than that. Yeah.
It's a lot. So I mean, it's depending on the size of the building, obviously it's different. Now, when you have a metal building that's all metal columns, steel columns, right? They use what's called a shape charge. So basically, a shape charge is you would take 2 pieces of copper, and it would be V-shaped, right? And then inside that V-shape would be hollowed out. That's where the dynamite would be inside the V-shape. So however long it needed to be, 18 inches, 16 inches, whatever the case may be. Am I boring you, Mark?
No.
Whatever the case may be, right? And then you would actually wrap the column. You got to come in, take a torch, and cut out and notch out that columns. Put them shape charges on it, facing where the inside of the V was shaping towards it. And then there you had to wrap those with wooden boxes. So when I did those, I was making a bunch of wooden boxes. There's another labor story, right?
Yeah.
So With this
Jeez.
job, I was all kind of places. I was in Chicago, where I got the crap scared out of me by some homeless people who were sitting and squatting in part of the building. We were already demoing. By the time I got out there, most of it was already done. Nobody knew they were there. I would been in Chicago. I was in Philadelphia. I was in Minnesota, Ohio. I've been all over the place. I did quite a few places. It was pretty interesting. It was pretty cool, the different places that we saw and bring the buildings down. So what they would do, they would clear out these floors, shove dynamite, and implode the building. Everybody's seen them on TV. A building come down. It's pretty cool to be a part
I
of it.
had no idea it was that labor intensive until you just said.
Oh, it's super labor intensive.
I
But
thought they just put dynamite on the floor or something. Shoved it
Yeah.
on the wall and hit go.
yeah, no, I mean, we would actually go in there and we'd find the floor we want to do and drill a couple of holes and throw some dynamite in there, sit back and blow it and see how it worked. Because I mean, you got rebar in all of these columns, so you'd have to see, does the bird cage it out? Was it too much dynamite? Not enough dynamite? So there was always some testing to go to. So this job took me many places, and I was in Philadelphia doing 5 buildings in Philadelphia, and I was away from home a lot. Had a girlfriend at the time, and we lived together. And obviously, because you're not going to just blow up buildings around Baltimore, there was a lot of travel involved. So I just got back from actually from Suffolk, Virginia, where we did a Planter peanut building out there, and it was a big, huge building. That was a cool job. But hey, we just got back from there, and I was told you're going to stay home for a while. We won't put you on the road. I've been on the road for probably 6 of the last 8 months. So I was like, cool. Well, in that April, the Alfred P. Murrah building got bombed by Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols. Okay, I think it was April 19th. And it's a shock to everybody all around the country, all around the world. What happened, what was going on. And we get called in the office, and they said, you're going to go to, they called us, they want us to bring the rest of the building down. And if anybody remember what the building looked like, but they said, we're going to send you guys out there.
It was in rough shape.
We need you to bring the rest of the building down, and, we got to get you out there as quickly as possible. So I pulled me in the office, hey, I need you to go to Oklahoma. I'm like, well, crap. I didn't really want to go because I'd just been on the road for 6 of the last 8 months. But I had no choice.
Yeah, I'm sure
So
your girlfriend at the time was
Oh,
probably
yeah,
saying
she
the
wasn't
same,
very
right?
happy either. But, so I'm 19 years old, and all right, so here you go. Here's the F-250. We're going to load it all up. We're going to get a big old trailer. We're going to throw all your rock hammer drills, all the supplies we need, and we need you to drive it out to Oklahoma, right? So by myself. Out to Oklahoma.
So were you usually the guy that drove the truck, or did you ever fly to the jobs, or were you the
Oh,
materials?
no, I didn't fly. We drove.
Okay,
We
so
drove. We can get into, another cool part of that story, we won't do it today, was when we would travel, we would all stay at the scrungiest, dirtiest, nastiest hotels you could find.
Wow.
And what just thought the owners did the same thing. It was a game who could find the worst hotel. But that's a story for another day.
I think I won in Leesburg last week.
I stayed one in Kansas City, Kansas, buddy. Whew, my goodness. Anyway, so off to Oklahoma I go. So I get out there, I pull up, and we pull up. Well, it's obviously it's a scene, right? FBI, ATF, all kind of other government officials and entities, and it was crazy. All fenced off. I mean, it's a war zone. It looked like it was nuts.
Yeah, I remember the pictures.
So if you're looking at the front of the building, to the left-hand side of the building is where, so the truck would probably, it wasn't directly in the middle. So if you're looking at the building, it was probably 2/3 from right to left.
So it's like a
right?
loading dock, right?
Sitting there, yeah, right in there. And the truck was sitting there that blew. I think it was a Ryder truck, if I remember correctly. And if you're looking at the building, if you pull up pictures of this building, you can see some green ductwork that's all kind of mangled up on the left-hand side. And if you look, the way the floors went, it blew from where it blew. It went all the way back, and the building was really narrow. So it was from left to right. Vertically, it was long. It was probably about a half of a city block, but it wasn't very deep. So it blew these floors back all the way to the back of the building, left-hand side. It was big, like a big hunk. Somebody reached in and just took the hose all the way out. And then back from left to right, the floors came back and it made back to the front of the building. So the right part of the building was intact, but only, a few hundred feet, not much. But for the most part of it, the building was pretty much taken out. Right? People can look pictures up of what it looked like. So where that green ductwork was, that's where on the second floor, That's where the daycare was. So there was kids laying up in the windows taking naps at the time.
Jeez.
People were at their desks. I mean, it was a normal work day, right?
It was 9 o'clock in the morning. I think
9 o'clock in the morning, yeah. So we get out there, and the first thing we do is we have to assess the damage.
Not to interrupt you. So by the time you guys get it, it's no longer an active crime scene? It's just like, let's take this down now. We're done with it?
No. They're still investigating. I mean, so as far as the crime scene goes, they kind of knew what happened. Like, but they're still
I think
assessing.
they called him, like what I was reading, like an hour and a half later. Like,
yeah.
They already called him and figured out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. By the time I get there, I don't remember. It's been obviously a long time ago. I don't know if we were 2 weeks, week out. We weren't super,
but it wasn't that long.
It wasn't like a couple hours. No, I was probably a week and a half before I got out there.
Okay.
Once it all
still
happened.
pretty fresh.
So it's very fresh. So if you're looking at the building, where I told you where the kids were sitting, where that was, and all the way back there was a piece of rubble hanging down. So we had to walk through and assess the damage, where we can go, kind of where you can't go, what you have to be aware of, right? And as I'm walking through this building, there's a group of us. We're kind of seeing what's going on out there. We're trying to figure out where we need to drill. What are our risks? What do we got going on? What can happen? And it's life, man. You see nothing but life throughout the entire building. You see people's deaths. You see pictures. You see families. You see everything. I mean, you see life. It ain't like walking into an old building that's been run down or busted up for a long time, and you're just bringing an old building down. It was surreal. It was absolutely surreal. To go through all this, and obviously, it's. I don't cry much, but I cried. I cried a couple of times when I was out there.
And as a 19-year-old kid, you're trying to find yourself in this world, and this is the part of the world now that you're seeing. Like, this is what it's like out here.
Yeah, it was absolutely. It was again. It was nuts, kind of seeing all of it. And as we're walking through assessing the damage, what we got going on, where we need to drill. If you remember looking at the building, like I said, you see where the cutout was, where the truck was kind of sitting, and then you can see, like, right where everything comes back towards the front there was a column that were about 3 floors deep that had no floors attached to them, and there was a bunch of rubble that was all rubbled up right on there. So at first they decided that when they accounted for everybody, there were still people missing. Okay, so by the time we get out there, they kind of know what's going on, or have an idea of how many people were missing. Well, they thought 2. So and they're, to the best of their knowledge, was they had to be in that rubble that was in the front of the building. Okay, however, you can't remove that rubble because they were afraid that if you remove that rubble out of there, that column was going to collapse and more building would come down, and you could risk other people's lives. So that had to stay. We had to paint that whole thing green and cover it, because when we brought the building the rest of the way down, they needed to know when they started digging where they were. So they started getting down toward where those bodies were thought to be. Obviously, we want to make sure that you're being a little more delicate and you're trying to pull them out. I think at the end of the day, I have to look back into this, but I think there was more than 2 in there when they finally got down to after the building came back down.
But it was that area.
It was that area. They were there. So when you go into this building, you have to imagine the columns in this building were from front to back. Okay, and these columns were, let's say, 1 foot to 18 inches wide, but they were like 6 feet deep long. They were like really narrow but long columns. And the elevator shaft was all granite. It was directly right in the middle of the building, like in the middle of the building. So the building manager was actually standing at the elevator when the bomb went off. And because of where he was standing and the way those columns were shaped, when that bomb went off, it acted as a partition and things just flew right around him. Okay, like I mean, ear busted out. He got some banged up a little bit, but like he says, he couldn't have been standing in a better spot than where he was standing at that particular moment. A foot to the left or right, and he's done. So we're in this building, and we've got to start working in this building to bring it the rest of the way down. So I've got pictures of me actually in like the Dallas newspapers of me drilling holes and on top of that rubble and getting so we can get dynamite into all these holes. But if you're looking at the building now, the way it went, like I said, from left to right, you had all that whole section on the left-hand side. It was all beaten out. So the concern was is that if we blew this building, we want everything to kind of come down and back in, right? We don't want it to fall out. Because directly behind the building, directly across the alley, was a church, and it had all plate glass window back there. That was beautiful, beautiful.
And it wasn't damaged in the
It was. It was. So to get to the damage part, right? So if you're looking at the building from the front of the building, directly behind it was that church. Okay, there was damage behind the building. I want to say 2 or 3 blocks.
Oh, wow.
Okay, that there was some kind of a window busted or something happened. To left or right, to the left of the building down was a YMCA at this end. To the right down that end was a apartment high rise. I want to say it was like 12 or 13 stories, all glass. Well, the compression from that truck going off busted out every exterior piece of glass on that.
I bet.
On that high rise. And to the left, so we went, and again, my numbers are off a little bit, but to the right, it went 6 or 7 blocks. To the left, there was damage 6 or 7 blocks.
When we were talking about this story, when I pulled up just to double check a couple of things about the dates and all, it said about 330 buildings were damaged. So it was definitely
Correct.
some blocks.
Yeah. So directly behind, right to the left, and then it was like another on the other side, because right across the street was like a little strip. I would say strip mall, but it was like the store. There was a deli over there. There was some other things there that got, damaged pretty bad. So by the time we get there, right, you have the smell. You could already start smelling the smell of the bodies. You could already start smelling the smell of the buildings across the street. Like it was the whole thing. To paint the picture, the smell, the scenes, the people walking around, the FBI who would sit outside every day, every night, 24 hours a day, watching people come in and out. The rats coming in and out of the pile, that there's nothing you can do about it. It just got crazy. But the damage that was created from this was all over the place. Down that to the right, so that the rear axle, so the truck was sitting with its passenger side facing the building, and the driver's side was away from the building, okay. Right? So it was sitting that way. The rear axle of the truck, from my understanding, was 3 or 4 blocks down the road behind is where they found parts of that rear axle. Wow. The hole that truck left when it went off was like 25, 30 feet in diameter, quite a few feet deep. It was a massive hole that this truck left when it went off. So we're trying to figure out where we're going to place the dynamite, how we're going to bring it down. Like I said, so you have that section of the building to the left-hand side there that looks like it's kind of floating. So they were worried about bringing it all down. They were worried about that side flopping back because there was nothing holding it, and it was going to fall back to the church or away from the footprint we wanted it to fall. So I got tasked with going up at a crane in a 10-yard dumpster. I got taken up to the very top floor. I had to crawl out of the dumpster with this big 90-pound rock hammer drill. I had to drill a hole through the side of the building so we could run a cable out to the outside of the building. And then run that cable all the way back down towards the columns that were sitting by themselves. So when it blew, it helped them down, pull that in. So I'm up in a 10-yard dumpster. Again, 19 years old. I'm not, you're kind of fearless at 19, but at that point in time, it was a little crazy. Tie it off. It was safe. Obviously, the big government. So you had to OSHA.
You talk about, let me just stop you right there for 1 second, because now I'm thinking, like you said, you're 19 years old, so you're here on a terrorist site. This isn't just a regular building. This is where a terrorist bombed a building. Is there any part of you or the crew that is scared that something like this can happen again while you're on site? Like what happened wasn't the end of it? So I'm just going back to like 9/11, right? If that happened, like the country was a little bit nervous about, hey, we're going to a football game. Can they, is this going to happen at a football game? Is this going to happen at a baseball stadium? Was there any part of you that thought like, hey, we're going back to the hotel tonight or to the restaurant tonight while we're down here, that something like that could happen again while you were there in the city doing this work? Did that ever cross your mind?
No, actually, it didn't. And anybody I talked to, from my recollection, I don't think that was a thought process. I think because it was something that had basically never happened before.
And I guess
how number one, whoever thought it was going to happen. Number two, there ain't no way it can happen again.
Okay. And that
Now,
makes sense.
Somebody may have, but I don't
And there
remember
wasn't
having
this
that thought.
cross.
I mean,
And I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
I was
no.
just sitting there thinking, like, I wonder
Good
if I would
question.
have been like, man, I don't know, like, I could just think he's sitting around the hotel at night, like, man, somebody, is it one of those trucks parked out front got a bomb in it?
No, good question, but no, not to my recollection. I don't remember having that thought
Okay.
process. But like I said, when I say secured, though, I mean there was enough government officials.
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
You know what I mean? It was pretty crazy. So anyway, clawing out this 10-yard dumpster onto this crumbling rock where you see the foundation of the building. It's all crumbling. I'm drilling and rocks were falling and I'm tied off and it was nuts. But anyway, we get this this cable ran and we get it pulled back in and we get other things drilled and we're getting everything kind of ready to go and getting the dynamite set and going through the process and we're the night before the shoot. All right, so the shoot being when we obviously shoot the building and bring the building down the night before. We had you're able to get in there and with a bobcat and with a chipper and chip away certain sections because like I said that elevator shaft and the way the elevator ran up with the column was pretty damn solid. So we had to do some chipping on that bottom couple floors. But there was a section of that one column that we couldn't get to with the bobcat, so we had to get a big, huge. There was 4 of us on this big wet saw. This blade was probably 8-10 foot diameter. It was a big, huge wet blade. Maybe not quite that big. Maybe 4 foot, 5 foot, but it's a big ass saw, right? And it's a wet saw, and the sun's going down. And you have to keep in mind. So under the building, or the 4-level parking garage below the building. So we had already chipped away that stairwell that led down to it, and it was basically a big ass open hole that led 4 floors down to just rubble and crap.
Right.
So we're on this saw, right? It's sun's going down. We got the emergency lighting up, or the fake, the little yellow plastic light covers that you see in construction site. We got it all kind of seeing what we can do. And we're cutting, we're drilling, we're cutting this last piece of this column. Well, we cut it, and right when we finished and got through that last section, it shifted. The column shifted and hit me come down on my left knee. My immediate reaction, obviously, is to pull away, jump off, and get off of that. Well, when I pulled away and jumped off of that, I turned, my body turned, and I was falling directly down that wide open stairwell that led down 4 floors down below. By the graces of God, there were 2 pieces of rebar that should have been cut that was still there, that was just wide enough. And when I went down,
They kind of caught you.
I caught it.
Oh, wow.
I caught it and pushed myself back up. That was the scariest moment of the whole time being out there. Because if that rebar is not there, I'm 4 floors down onto a bunch of rubble. And it was that close.
I guess we're talking about all this stuff, and one thing we didn't bring up was how dangerous of a job that really is.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, you're working on most buildings that are already fallen down and dilapidated, right? And this is a building that's completely unstable because of, a bomb, and
Right.
you cut a column, and the next thing you know, you said you're falling 4 stories. So, I mean, I guess you do have fall protection, and most
there
of
was
the
no fall protection that day. That
No,
night.
no.
There was
It was
nothing
just
we
like-
were going to. We were just cutting the column.
But just, I guess most states, but still, I guess it's one of the things you just don't think about it, right? You probably take it for granted. You do it so many times and
Yeah.
no issues, and then something like that.
Yeah. Well, that scared the bejesus out of me. I'll tell you that. I went back to the hotel room that night and just kind of chilled. That was scary. But we got it cut. We got it together, and the next day we're going to shoot the building. So I'm stationed. My station is, like I was saying earlier, if you're looking at the building to the right, there was that high rise, that 13-story high rise that with all the windows were blown out. I was stationed down there, and there was a big, huge, front end loader that was sitting down there. And I'm telling everybody, all right, my job is to keep everybody behind me. Everybody behind me. Cops, firefighters, pedestrians, whomever. You stay behind me. So I'm getting everybody back. And there was an arrogant cop there, like, I can't make you. You know what I mean? You do what you want. But it's like you talk about things that happen. It's like the aha moment. So he decides he's going to stand right here. We're behind the front end loader, We count down, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hit the button. Boom. Building goes. Building comes down like it's supposed to. That cable we talked about earlier pulls the other side in beautifully. But as soon as that first dynamite explosion went off, a rock skipped down that street and came within feet of drilling that cop. Guess who hauled ass and got behind the front end loader?
Yeah.
And and
Change
at
your mind real
19,
quick.
at 19, I'm a smart ass at 49. Just kind of looked at him with a smirk on my face, and he just kind of shook his head, like, yep, you were right, bud. But anyway, so we brought this building all the way down, and the rest is history. And they come in, they did the digging, they found the bodies, everybody was accounted for, and now there's a big memorial there.
So after the building comes down, was it your guys' job to do any cleanup, or you just
Now the cleanup,
No,
we were just contracted to come in and bring the
Demolition
building
crew, okay.
down. Yeah,
take
we
it
weren't.
down and go?
Not very often were we the general contractor, but the whole time we were just
Okay.
contracted to come in and do it. You know what I mean?
So how long did you do this job for?
About 2.5 years.
Okay.
One of those jobs where, looking back,
Here we go. We got a picture of the building coming down, courtesy
there it is.
of
Yes,
your.
sir. See
yours
that corner
truly,
right there,
Fred
Mike, on the
Anders.
left, right in the front. That right there.
Yeah.
That's where that cable.
Yeah, but
was.
you can see it pointing
That
it.
pulled that
Okay,
in. Yeah, that's where
that is
cable
pretty.
pulled it in.
I gotta say. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it was incredible. But yeah, it was in that as walking around, right? You don't want to take anything out of there. I did find a American flag, beautiful American flag that I did pull out of there. Went home with me. It is now folded up. It is in a nice case. It sits on my mantle. It's got my of where it came from and
Yes.
honor memory of what happened and who all was there. But that's one experience in my life that I'll never, obviously, nobody probably would, but ever forget. It was humbling. It is just goes to show you how, not to stay dark here, but how quickly things can change, right?
Yeah.
So, don't take anything for granted. But,
No,
it
I
was cool.
appreciate you sharing that with us, man. We said you had a cool story about it, and it's great to hear it from that perspective. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
it's completely different side of what happened and your how you felt and your experience of going inside the building, like you said, when it was a building that was just alive a few weeks before that.
Yeah.
Right. And,
Yeah.
now everything's changed. So it was neat to hear that side of the story. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate hopefully the listeners listen. And if obviously there's ever any questions, anybody listening to this show has any questions about what I saw or what went on out there, by all means, let me know. But I saw some cool stuff. The other one, we'll save a story for another day. The other cool one I went to was Oak Grove, Tennessee. Oak Grove, Tennessee is the nuclear site. That's where they built the bomb that they dropped on Hiroshima.
Okay.
And that was a pretty cool explosion on that one too. That was a little gut wrenching because we had a couple shots at it and had to go back into a building that didn't go the first time and almost didn't come back down the second time.
Oh wow.
But that was a pretty cool spot too. But anyway, yeah. So, but yeah, it was my Alpha Pete Murrah story. Like I said, it was pretty surreal. It was pretty intense. Looking back on it now, I was pissed because I didn't want to go. I wanted to stay home. I'd been on the road, but under the circumstances, I'm so glad that I went. So glad that I was a part of that and part of history. You know what I mean?
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you, Fred. That's going to wrap up another episode of
Yeah.
Fire Away Podcast. Follow us on Instagram, Fire_Away Podcast, and make sure that you check us out on Apple Podcasts. Click that little follow button up on the right hand side, and we will talk to everybody next time.
See ya.